good afternoon, good evening, or whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Grain Market Blast with myself and the awesome Angie, aka at Goddess of Grain. Here she is. Let's just get her switched on. While she's joining, I'll do the legals. So nothing discussed on this space session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by POQ Global Limited, Traders POQ or POQ Suite, or indeed the host, which, as you know by now, is the amazing Angie Sets Away. And my
And the
Ryan
crowd goes
Bailey.
wild.
How are you? I'm far too happy for a Monday. I don't know what's gone on.
There is no such thing as being too happy for a Monday. Like, if you hang with me every day, you wake up ready to kick a door down. Like,
This
it's
is it.
just,
This is exactly it. If
there
you
is,
are a very, 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 very good kind of person to have around to really kind of wake you up and shake you
well,
around,
let's go. What the hell? Life is too short to be bummed on a Monday. I tell you what, even if the
right?
markets kind of stink. So,
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
rock and roll. I guess it's a good time.
Yep.
Job security, right? There'll be plenty of things to talk about for the next 4 years. It feels like, and so woohoo, party on. So over the weekend, right, we had our first. I'm going to send Colombia the award for the first official trade war of this administration, let's say. It may have only lasted for 5 to 10 minutes. That might be an exaggeration, but still, we had a little bit of an issue here with Colombia and President Trump. Colombia with an O, not a U. Two very different things. And so, really over the weekend there, we'd had the Colombian president say, no, I am not going to take these deportees of yours. You're sending them, and I don't like the way you're treating them. They had handcuffs and shackles, which ICE apparently has used historically for these types of deportations. So it's not something necessarily that's like a Trump administration thing, but we are hearing more world leaders kind of say, hey, we don't like how you're treating our people. And that's kind of been the blowback. Mexico did the same thing, I think, late last week. And then we've seen this sort of remedied. But, it was interesting all of a sudden on Truth Social, which if you don't have it, I guess you can just get on X there, and there is a Trump's Truth Social tweet. Like it'll just give you a
Oh,
live,
hello.
yeah. So you can check that out if you want. But he did say, hey, we're going to tariff Colombia 25%. They don't start taking these deportees, and it's going to go up to 50% after a week if they don't get their act in order here. And Colombia's president was like, fine, to heck with you, and then, like I said, 5 minutes later, they're both like, okay, never mind, we'll work this out. And it was huge because Colombia is one of the top importers of U.S. corn. Colombia has some
But what
really,
it's like, just one of the funniest things about this is he went from going, no, we don't want your flights to, oh crap. I tell you what, why don't you also use my presidential plane
right.
to fly people over?
Like that's what it was. So it's interesting to me to see, or maybe it's interesting to everyone to kind of see, like, it reminds me of the F around and find out sort of philosophy,
Yeah,
that we have
no,
in front of
absolutely.
us now.
It's the thing is as well, just quickly on this,
Yeah.
because I think it's very important that we speak about this. It's in the past, sanctions, tariffs,
Hmm.
both really, they've always been used in a fashion of, okay, we don't like what you're doing. We're going to sit down. We're going to discuss what tariffs to add on. You'll hear back from us in a few months or
Yes.
a few weeks. And that was very kind of, very weak way of doing things.
Hmm.
Trump this time around, to be fair, even more so than his first time on the carousel. He's using them as almost like a shock weapon, a shock
Yes.
tactic. He's saying, right, I don't like what you've just said. Bosh, here you go, 25% tariffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll then look, and if we don't come around, we'll then do 50%. We'll then do 75%.
Yes.
But the fact that he's like willing to just go, Bosh, I don't like what you said. I disagree, 25% tariffs. That's going to scare a lot of people. A lot of
Yes.
other countries and our policymakers in other countries are now looking at what just happened with Colombia,
Yes.
and they've gone, hold on a second. Yeah, he's not messing around. And as me and you have said many times in the past, just having that threat of what he might do means that we don't have to even go down the path of kind of what should maybe happen.
Yes. I think that's what it is. Like, I feel like that, like, or at the very least, I think, folks are kind of recognizing that if he says something, he's going to follow through on it. Or at the very least,
Yeah,
like I said, I said this morning, remember, it takes 3 to 5 headlines with this administration before you really know what's going to happen. And so, honestly,
yeah,
like, headline one, biggest threat, going to be destructive, going to absolutely, flip the table over, don't give a shit. Like, this is what's going to happen, the scorched earth style. Then headline two is generally the person, the other leader is responding in kind with the same sort of reaction, to heck with you, this isn't going to fly, you know what I mean? And then by the end, we try to figure out something because neither party really wants to do that. Well, the party opposite of Trump really doesn't want to do this. Trump is kind of like, take it and don't. You have two options. You know what I mean? It's like growing up at home. You didn't get peanut butter and jelly if you didn't like what you ate. You ate the damn chicken drummies or you went to bed hungry. Sort of the same sort of scenario. So, but having said all of that, now the concern is that, this Saturday is February 1st. And so we're looking at, the possibility of Canada and Mexico having 25% tariffs placed. Wall Street Journal came out this morning with an article that basically said, like, a lot of the Trump advisors, or at least a couple, two of the more important ones, Lucknick, I think, being one of them, has kind of said, like, hey, let's tariff first, talk later. Like, we're not going to screw around with these long drawn out, like, don't do it, we won't, like that sort of deal, like negotiating with your kid at bedtime. Like, no, you're not doing this. Like, we are going to put these on and then you can rectify the situation in the rears. You know what I mean? Like, so that is huge. That is concerning. I didn't look this morning. I actually have it pulled up right now. When it comes to outstanding sales of like corn, Mexico is our largest customer, and one of our largest customers, our largest customer actually of corn purchases when it all is said and done. And they still have about 7.8 million metric tons of corn that's outstanding. So that means that that's a chunk of corn that still needs to ship, and that would be subject to the tariff. That was what was so funny to me about people being like, well, if they buy it before the inauguration, well, obviously you don't understand how that works. Like, if it gets shipped, it's getting a tariff. It doesn't matter if it was bought before, during, after, whatever. Well, after, of course, but still. It's not one of those things where, well, we bought it on January 19th. That's not how it works. If it's not been shipped, it's subject to tariff. And so we do have 7.8 million metric tons of corn that's sitting there that could be open to some problems. But the thing is with Mexico right now is they don't really have an alternative option for corn. There really isn't anyone out there that's going to bring them corn as cheaply as, that's got quality, and has 8 million metric tons of corn just chilling. And so it'll be interesting to see, how all of that plays out. And it's going to have the market on edge here, really until we get beyond the first, or at the very least, we know what's going to happen. Now, some of the frustration that we're hearing out of the leaders, and I'm trying not to repeat myself here, but some of the frustration that we're hearing out of the leadership of Mexico and Canada is that they are unable to negotiate right now because they're still waiting for the administration to be confirmed. And so that is something, you know what I mean? Like, we're still waiting for leaders to be able to negotiate. And we're talking about putting tariffs on in 4 days.
This is it, right? We got Mexico in this position. We've got also Canada. In it's going to be March until we get a real functioning government over there. I know EU. I know France and Germany aren't big buyers of ag products from the US, but in terms of tariffs and stuff, there's a lot of developed nations out there that don't have functioning governments right now. It's a bit,
even if they have concerning. One in place, you don't know if it's functioning. You can't really call it functioning.
Well, this is it.
That might be a little bit too. That might be an exaggeration. You just don't know. But so that is the thing. It's all Trump, all trade, all the time right now. And then we also have China going on holiday this week, and so. That is unnerving in and of itself. It's one of the things I put in this morning's commentary is like when China has gone away from the market, it's always weird. It creates this information vacuum to a certain extent, or at the very least, there's no real development at which, for us to chew on. Bull needs to be fed every day, right? We need something supportive out of China to help. And we're not going to get it for the next 7 days, and so that's going to be something also that we'll have to watch. But they also have the Feb 1st tariff threat. So that stinks. Your holiday is ruined. Sorry about that, China. But there you go. So final point, and we'll call it a Monday at the very least, is South American weather. It does look like we'll see more in the way of decent progress.
Oh, do you know what?
What?
Sorry, that is unbelievable timing.
Why?
Because I literally just shared Nick's post today about South American.
It's like we share a
brain. Oh my God, that's
Look at that.
So honestly, you can listeners can now tell that we actually don't plan this at all, because
Yeah.
otherwise I would have been so shocked. But yeah, so carry on.
Yes, so check it out. South American weather, big deal, right? We're going to be paying attention to what's happening there. The one thing that we're watching that is of super interest to me is not only are we seeing, some heat and dryness start to trim back the Argentina crop size. Our friend Nick actually came out, AIQ adjusted their production estimate for Argentina down to 47 million metric ton. That's 4 million metric ton lower than what the USDA is currently at. I think we're starting to see more in the way of private thoughts that we will see that happen, potentially see, maybe even greater losses depending, but there's no real clarity there. It does look like you will start to see more in the way of some rainfall here over the next week. And then beyond that, there's some questions as to what we'll see. Brazil's forecast does look like it'll dry out here for the next 5 days or so. That should allow for some decent harvest progress. They really need it. Safrinha planting is actually off to its slowest start on record in Mato Grosso, and that's huge. We're about almost 3 weeks delayed in Safrinha planting. Our friend Eduardo at AgriInvest pointed out late Friday in their report, and then again this morning, that once you hit about 3 weeks of delay to Safrinha planting, which we're flirting with that, you run the risk based on historical production seasons and that had a similar delay. You run the risk of a 10 to 15% reduction in production. If we were to see a 10% reduction in Safrinha production, you're talking about a 9 to 10 million metric ton reduction in overall Brazilian crop size. That's without talking about first crop reduction potential. And so you pair that up with Argentina, and all of a sudden we're talking about already tight global corn stocks getting even tighter. But in the short term, everyone's going to be paying attention to the Argentina export tax reduction. And what that means, it's 80 cents cheaper for soybeans, or the farmer is supposed to get 80 cents more for their soybeans. It really doesn't change corn and wheat. There's about 15, 16 cents added to corn and wheat. So it's supposed to be more of like a soybean dollar thing. But definitely a whole lot to watch this week. South American weather, South American economic things that we are seeing, and then we have all of the trade talk. So definitely won't be lacking anything to talk about.
And this is why tuning in to the Grain Market Blast is so vital for everyone. See?
Yeah, check that out.
Tune in and listen to Angie cut through all the noise and give you the signal of what actually matters. Exactly that.
So much fun. At least to me. It's what matters to me. And I think it matters to the market too.
To be honest, it's the only reason I turn up is because I want to learn.
What's going on today? So, but no, exactly. It should be a great week. We'll be watching closely for any sort of developments. One thing I always like to tell everyone is, and I tweeted this morning, just make sure you remember, 3 to 5 we'll have 3 to 5 different story reincarnations. You know what I mean? You get a headline, it's going to come out 3 to 5 different ways before the final. And even then it's going to be a question. So lots of volatility coming our way, but don't, from a farmer standpoint, target orders still, and, remember where we've come from. Don't think about where we've been necessarily. Sometimes it can hold us up if we think, well, I didn't sell 494 3/4 on the March board. I sure as heck can't sell 480, forgetting that we're actually a good buck higher than what the late, early fall lows were and stuff like that. So just one of those things to keep in mind. It's easy to kind of stop if we lose a dime and not want to continue to be an engaged marketer, but that's where we tend to make our errors. So I will shut up now. Happy Monday.
Oh, don't say that. Angie, thank you so much, as always, for being the hostess with the mostess. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, especially the regular ones. We do see you there, and we do appreciate you tuning in. And the crowd is getting bigger, and it'll be going up on Spotify very soon as well, because I'm going to pull my finger out and get that all sorted. So, yeah, we're taking the world over, basically.
Look at us. Let's rock and roll. 10 minutes at a time. Wink. Exactly. 10 minutes.
Well, it's close enough. We've had a lot to talk about. Angie, but no, seriously, thank you so much, listeners. Have a great week. Enjoy Monday if you can. Stay safe, be careful, and we'll see you all tomorrow. See you later.